I'm still saying right now, Walt. I believe he's going to be in Atlanta. I think that Justin Fields is going to be Atlanta Falcon. I heard him talk with Pittsburgh right now, but he's somebody that Chicago got to figure out what they're going to do with Justin Fields, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
So
think he's got to go away from
It
Chicago.
seems to be a foregone conclusion that Justin out of there anyway. I think it's either a lot is I believe is weighing on the Raiders too, and what the Raiders decide to do. All reports is that Antonio Pierce is, and why wouldn't he be in love with Jaden Daniels? He had Jaden Daniels for 3 years at the University of Arizona State. He knows him completely inside out. He saw him leave a rough situation at Arizona State, go to a much better situation at LSU, a more pass happy, more quarterback and wide receiver friendly offense. And he took off and he maximized his ability. So I think they would prefer Jaden Daniels. But the question is, do we think the Bears are going to be able to move Justin Fields before the draft? Or is this something that kind of gets strung out and strung along all the way until April 26th, April 27th?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like the day of the draft, maybe
yep,
that.
I think a draft day.
Yeah.
Yep, good call, Avery. I think it's going to be a draft day type. You know what I'm saying? Walt, draft night type move. That's what I believe is going to happen. Yep.
But I don't think Chicago ever wanted him. I think Chicago was just trying to repeat something that messed up on in the past. And I think that Chicago truly is not getting behind it. I don't know if it's the fans. He's had some games. I don't like Justin Fields at all. I don't think he's spectacular at all. Just the windows he misses, the things he misses. But I do think in the right system, and that's another thing about the franchise quarterback. The franchise has to be with the quarterback. So if you have a running quarterback, or if you have a quarterback that came from a certain offense, you need to be on that paradigm too. You don't see Kansas City trying to change Mahomes. You didn't see LA try to change Stafford. He got to Chicago and they tried to change him, and then they reverted back to what he was good at when they got in the doghouse with 0-6 and 1-6.
Well, just let him run.
Exactly.
Let him run.
Now let's do it. We're under attack, so let's let him do his thing so he can get us out the hole and we can keep our jobs. Like I just think a good fit would be Atlanta for him, just like you said, Ashanti. But also, I feel like Chicago really needs to build the offensive line and build a team and get a Kirk Cousins in the free agency. It's simple to me. I don't know why it's a conversation. Like, you want a veteran quarterback, you want to build an offensive line, you have a defense that came on strong last year. Just do it. I don't understand.
All right. Well, let's get into this pre-combine show, man.
Yeah.
Go!
All right, so that's how we're going to start this show out, talking about Justin Fields and the dilemma that the Chicago Bears currently have on their hands. But the hell with all that. That has nothing to do with our Detroit Lions right now. So tonight we will be previewing the NFL Combine, which officially kicks off tomorrow. Now, we're talking about the events. That right there doesn't start until Thursday. But Sunday, February 25th, which is today, you had early player arrivals. Tomorrow, February 26th, we're looking at registration, pre-exams, orientation, as well as team interviews. Tuesday, February 27th, we have general medical exams, pre-ordered studies, as well as team interviews again. Wednesday, February 28th, we're looking at ortho exams, media interviews, NFLPA meeting, as well as team interviews before things start kicking off Thursday, February 29th with player measurements as well as on-field workouts. So on the pre-show, we discussed a little bit about how commercialized this whole NFL Combine as well as the NFL draft process has became. We reminisced on the days of when NFL fans they loved the sausage but didn't give a damn about how the sausage was created. And the NFL Combine was kind of considered the nerd aspect of everything. And now it's commercialized. So now you got 4 days for ESPN and Fox Sports and CBS Sports and NBC Sports and all these other networks, CNN, SI, all of these networks to really interview these players, get all the information they need to, and really slowly build everything up, because everything nowadays is about slow build up. So it went from being a 3-day event on, was it Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, to now it's a full week-long event. So, fellas, our Detroit Lions, we're all pretty much on the same page, man. We're talking about interior defensive line. We're talking about edge rushers. We're talking about safety play. A safety position is another position that heading into this draft may have to be addressed, considering we may lose a guy or two in free agency. And the one elephant in the room, we believe, is the cornerback position. And we've been crying for this organization to hit on the quarterback since Darius Slay. Let's be honest about it. And prior to him, who was it? We didn't hit on nobody else. We didn't hit on Terry Fair. We didn't hit on Kevin Abrams. We didn't hit on Brian Westbrook. It's been a very, very long time since this organization hit on the corner. Have they even hit on the corner in the first round, period, for that matter? Let's get into this, because we're discussing the defensive players. We're going to start with the defensive lineman, Ashanti.
Yeah.
Now, this is a team that throughout the early part of the season, we were crying every Monday about the lack of interior pass rush. Yep. We discussed the Aiden Hutchinson's inability to really get home. I do understand a lot of times with young edge rushers, they have streaks. They'll go a 4-game streak where they'll get 6 sacks in 4 games, then they'll go quiet for 3 or 4 games. The top guys, the elite guys, don't have those stretches. And when they do have them, they limit those stretches, not to a 5-game sackless streak, but a 2-game sackless streak. The elite guys keep it to a 1 game, for that matter. So, in your estimation, Ashanti, is it interior pass rush or edge rush pass rush that's more important right now?
I think we need some on the other side. You know, saying Aiden Hutchinson. I think that the other side of, you know, the left side of that line's an issue. You know what I'm saying? We've been playing like revolving door with Okora and, you know, James Houston getting hurt, and basically we hadn't had a guy at all. You know what I'm saying? That's been an amazing thing about like what Aaron Glenn has done, I believe, you know, in his tenure here, because we haven't had the consistent other guy on the other side. I mean, we've been getting away with it, like not having a pass rush. I mean, it's crazy to me to that we even like having this discussion, but like we are at this point. So yeah, I mean, I believe, to me, I do believe like Aleem McNeil is a guy we can keep. And he had damn near 10 sacks from that position. I think he had 8 or 9 sacks at that interior. We do need another interior presence, because I don't know. You know, Broderick Martin's going to be another year of development. We don't know how much, you know, he's going to be a factor. We don't know, you know, if Brad Holmes has got him in his draft plans for this year, like as far as like not drafting a guy and letting Broderick Martin take the realm, or me personally, I think it's too deep this year to just disregard the position, man. I really do. I think it'll be a mistake. You know, we have to get, and like you said, I think we said it the last couple of shows, Walt, we can't like not take an impact guy. I mean, yeah, another try hard 5th round pick. I'm not with that, man. I want to get like within the top. You know, we got 4 picks, I think, we're in the top 100. So man, I would like to see an outside rusher, you know what I'm saying, on that part of the defense, man. You know, whether it's Brandon Trice, whether it's, you know, Chris Braswell, which I'm falling in love with him every day as I watch. Chris Braswell is a player, man, disruptor. I think he would be great. Another guy running a 4-3 system is Edgerrin Cooper, a guy that I like from Texas A&M. I really like him a lot. It's some talent out here, Walt. I think they would be out of his mind not to do anything this year. But to answer your question, I think because the run interior, we were good against the run, so I don't think that's like a need, like a glaring gaping hole like pass rush. You know what I'm saying? I think we had what in the middle of the pack as far as total sacks as a team, and you gotta believe that another guy that can rush the passer would be beneficial to the whole defense. You know, let's be honest. I mean, poor Cam Sutton's out there on an island trying to cover like he's a number one, but the only thing I can say is to back him up on that is if you got to cover for that long, or you're trying to, hold serve, and you got pressure coming from one guy who's getting double teamed. So, and then Elaine McNeil was even hurt. Remember he missed a couple games, and it was like the defensive line was kind of in the flux to begin with, and like I said, I'm an Aaron Glenn guy. I love what he did. Just man, he's making stuff happen out there. You understand with what he had. So yeah, I mean, and when you look at it, these guys, only guy I'm kind of skeptical, and then I let Avery take it away. He kind of back me up on this. I see this Darius Robinson. I see a couple guys that I'm not too familiar. I got to look at the tape on Darius Robinson. I don't know, like how much of an impact guy. I do like Dorless from Oregon. I like him. He's kind of raw. Dwayne Carter is more of an inside guy. I like Fabian Lovett senior. I like a lot of guys out there. You know what I'm saying? So I let Avery take it away. And for me to answer your question, Walt, I think it's the outside pass rush. I mean, more so than I think corner is a glaring need too. But since we on the D line, outside pass rusher.
Yeah, for me, it's gonna be the opposite. I think this team needs more of a scheme change, defensive line wise, and I say
agree.
that because I think that the wide nine would benefit this team a lot more. Where they like gap control, they love to crash inside and contain, running quarterbacks, but also they're not good at it, right? So when you see them in more of a wide nine situation, there's only limited mistakes they can do. And I think that with that, you can get an interior pass rusher like a Leonard Taylor from Miami. You can get an interior pass rusher that's going to give you a spark and help out a lean. When that happens, your edges on the outside are just going to get better. We've seen that Aleem McNeil is probably moving closer to the upper echelon of this defense. I don't believe that, but a lot of people do because he has 5 sacks on the year, because he has ascended. I think he's got a lot more to do in terms of being that elite defensive tackle. But if he has help from his left side, from that interior line, that 3 technique position, that's just going to raise his game and everybody's around. And I think that when you have Aleem McNeil crashing in and he's the best interior pass rusher, that's a problem because that doesn't happen every game. That happens on our lower echelon games like Carolina. Like every game he's gotten double sacks or 2 sacks or even 3. Like every game he's done this, it's been against inferior competition. So partnering him with someone that's more athletic, a true 3 technique, a true 6'3", 305-pound pass rush, run stopping guy is going to make him better. But not only that, but the scheme change is going to make the outside edges better. Those outside edges, like right now, I think we're past the Aquarius. We know they can't give us anything, but we need to look for our Kaminsky's to step up in that role and dominate that role. So right now we have a by committee. If your name's not Aiden Hutchinson, you're an edge rusher by committee. We need someone in the bullpen to actually dominate that position. And I think James Houston can do that, especially in a wide 9 situation where he gets like 5 yards off the ball and he can actually get a running start on the left tackle or the right tackle. I think he can do that effectively. And I think this team is like one piece away from having that pass rush be so dominant and so formidable that we are used to seeing from our past Detroit Lions.
I agree, especially with the change in scheme philosophy. I've been talking about them having pieces that are better suited for 3-4 for the longest. If you look at the opportunity, and Ashanti and I discussed this in the pre-show before you came on, just the way college football is constructed, you have a better opportunity of finding undersized edge rushers in college that are 3-4 linebackers that can do multiple things that help you in a variety of different ways than you do have the opportunity of landing the prototypical defensive lineman within that 4-2-5 that they really need. A guy like Myles Murphy, who went to the Cincinnati Bengals towards the end of the first round last year, that's the reason why me and Ashanti, we were so high on that guy. He was 6'5", he was 280, and he was a guy that was a prototypical either 4-2-5 defensive end, or he could play a basic down defensive end in the 4-4. He could play in that 4-4 or also the 4-3. Now, people didn't really care for Myles Murphy because Myles didn't have the high sack totals. But when you dug deeper into Myles Murphy's situation, a lot of the issues he had was not on him. Brian Breesy suffered through those same issues. Another guy who's on this list, matter of fact, Ruka Roro from Clemson, he's another guy that suffered from this. Those Clemson defensive linemen, for whatever reason, Clemson loves to drop their guys in the coverage a lot. And they love to drop those guys into space and have them get the assignments of covering just a certain amount of ground in that certain space and within that box. If Myles Murphy would have had 70 more pass rush attempts instead of dropping into coverage 70 more times, maybe he would have had the pass rush numbers and the hurries and the quarterback hits and the sacks that everyone seems to salivate over when it comes to these defensive linemen. But I agree with Avery 100%, man. A lot of people have brought up guys like Chris Braswell, of course, Will Anderson from a year ago, a guy who there were questions about whether or not he could consistently play with his hand in the dirt in a 4-3, and he did it within D'Amico Ryan's defense as a rookie. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year, matter of fact. But what worries me about a lot of these dudes are within our defense and our philosophies, is it a waste of time? You know, Braswell, 13 sack guy. Dallas Turner, another double-digit sack guy coming out of Alabama. Will these guys be in a situation here in Detroit where their tools get accentuated and they can actually thrive and succeed here? That's the whole thing. I think a lot of times as football fans, we go out there and we just see a list of edge rushers and we don't think about scheme fits. We don't think about responsibilities within those schemes. We don't think about the size deficiencies some of these edge rushers may have playing within our defense. And also the fact that we only play two linebackers at the time, 90% of the time. Now, if you're talking about moving on from Alex Anzalone and pairing another young, athletic sideline-to-sideline guy who can get out there and coverage as well as rush, and now you're looking at Jack Campbell being in a situation where he can stay right there in the middle and do exactly what he needs to do, now we can go with an Edgerrin Cooper, who I compared to Trayvon Edmonds, who came out of Virginia Tech years ago. But for the most part, man, we handcuffed with that scheme. We miss out on a lot of high-quality edge rushers because of that 4-2-5 scheme. But let's add this here, man. Let's jump into this because I want to get into these names, man. We are looking at Austin Booker of Kansas, Solomon Byrd of USC, Dwayne Carter. We can stop at Dwayne Carter for a second. Not that Dwayne Carter from
Louisiana.
Not that Dwayne Carter. This ain't the Carter. This is a different Carter. But yeah, Dwayne Carter, a guy I brought up on a prior show when we had Joe Chapp on, matter of fact. Carter's kind of, people always look at the three techs. Well, we want to see the production. We want to see the hurries. We want to see the QB hits. A lot of his lack of production came down to what he was surrounded with at Duke. But if you're talking about a guy who's past the prototypical height, prototypical weight, he's powerful, very heavy-handed, and he does have a couple pass rush moves. He can improve in that area a lot. But those Duke players over the past few years haven't translated to the NFL with high caliber production too much. Remember the one who came out, Rump, who came out year before last. He was projected as a top 20 pick heading into the season before last, and then once the dust started to settle, we saw where Rump eventually ended up going. So what do you guys think about Dwayne Carter? Because I do know, Ashanti, you brought him up in the pre-show.
Yeah, I like Dwayne Carter, man. I think he would be a welcome addition, welcome sight to what I mean, a guy that constantly wins at the line of scrimmage, and like Avery so eloquently put that his comment on Elaine McNeil. I think that's kind of the problem. I think we don't win at the line of scrimmage when we're playing like teams that are good, just as good of a good as us. I think that's part of the problem that we don't on defense. I think offense we got, offense we dominate. I think that's the strength of our team. But I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think this is where we have to get impact guys, not a try hard guy. Just we got to get a guy like remember like last year we was beating. I was beating the drummer Jalen Carter last year, and people didn't want to kind of drag because of the outside off the field stuff with Jalen Carter. That was that went by the wayside real quick. You kind of knew that the Lions weren't going to take them. But I think that Duke is another school that's kind of coming up in the ranks in college football. Man, I wouldn't be so nervous to pick a Duke player that's like high caliber like Dwayne Carter. You know what I'm saying? Just from what I've seen on tape, Wall, he's the perfect guy to me. I don't know how much he fits because remember, let's be honest, y'all know this better than me. That Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, they got certain kind of guys, man, that they want. You know what I'm saying? That certain kind of guys, like you said, Avery, to fit the scheme. You know what I'm saying? If they're going to keep it the way it is, I think that we need another guy that's dot run stopperish like on every we need somebody who's gonna win a lot of times than not. You know what I'm saying? I like where Avery put that because you can't have a guy that doesn't do it like at least 50% of the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not win for a game and then don't show up for 5. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that's part of the problem. So we need to get some impact guys on defense. And I think it starts, I like a ton of guys on this list, but since we talking about Dwayne Carter, I think yes, it's a yes for me with Dwayne Carter. I don't know how you guys feel about him, but
there's not going to be too much risk with Dwayne Carter in the 3rd round, 2nd round. I doubt he moves out of that type of range. I do have some pause when it comes to the sack numbers. I am a sack numbers guy. I know sacks come
me
from
too.
things.
Me
They
too.
come from coverage. They come from quarterbacks holding the ball too long. They come from just like mismanagement, probably going up against terrible guys. But there is something to say about 1 sack last year. There is something to say about that. But the 41 tackles, he's going to be one of those, Brad Holmes guys, those role players. He's going to come in, role player, Senior Bowl, decent Senior Bowl, decent senior year. I think he's a role player. What I'm looking for is like, I hate to say this because this player hasn't done nothing in the league, but I remembered evaluating Bradley Anae, and Bradley Anae was someone who popped off the film every play,
Excuse me.
especially at the Senior Bowl. He was elite at the Senior Bowl. Him and Uchi was getting to the quarterback. I think they had 5 sacks total, but it was like an onslaught. And I need to see players that are, and I'm going to get in this film a little later this week. I need to see players that are hard to move out of the way. You understand? Let's say I'm scouting a quarterback. This is an unrelated point, but it's a point nonetheless. Say I'm scouting a quarterback, but this wide receiver keeps just getting open. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what this guy's about, but this guy just it's hard to ignore, you know? And then you might not even need a wide receiver. You might be looking at this guy like, oh my God. Like that's how I felt about Bradley Anae on film, on tape, during the Senior Bowl, during the process. Like this dude just keeps getting there, getting there, getting there. That's what I would like to see from Dwayne Carter. As it stands right now, Dwayne Carter to me, solid dude, solid role player, solid rotational piece, solid, perfect, da 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 da. I need sauce, okay? This draft
100.
fortification. I'm tired of the Kaminsky's. I'm tired of the Canada dudes who just we love the Canada dudes with no guaranteed money. We hounded Canada. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of tryhards. I'm tired of retreads. I'm tired of let's give him a shot. you know what? Let's give him a shot. Is cheap, usable, get rid of. You know, it's just this. It's a factory, a farm of misused toys or something. I don't want that. I want a Chevrolet Corvette on that defensive line, and I need it in this draft. So I'm gonna get in this film a little later. I'm a little more detached from my normal YouTube algorithm stuff, but I'm trying to get into this, because I work afternoons. My schedule's not very forgiving, but I need somebody to pop. I need to see a star on tape. A hidden gem.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to get that at 29. We're going to get into all these names because this is a long-ass list of guys, but I get it. Dwayne Carter's a safe pick. He's a guy that can come in. He can fill that role once Levi's gone.
Isaiah
Levi, yeah. Because I mean, he and Levi is around the same exact size or whatnot. So
yeah,
like you said, I mean, I get it. He's another fill-in guy. He's not that guy who you're not taking a risk. Remember, Jalen Carter a year ago was considered a risk. High ceiling guy, but has some character issues or whatnot. Now, ultimately, will that work out for Philadelphia? Could not. He started out hot, kind of fizzled out towards the end of the season. The Eagles as a team fizzled out towards the end of the season, but the talent was obviously there with Carter, and it was shown early on. But yeah, Dwayne Carter, man, like I said, he's a safe guy, a guy that you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. Not the splash player at all. I think if you're looking for a splash, and Ashanti and I discussed this guy in the pre-show, probably Mason Smith of LSU.
Yeah.
He's the most, because somebody mentioned in the comment section about loving Chris Jones. I love Chris Jones too. He's the closest potential-wise to that type of player. A lot of people forgot about Mason Smith. Mason was the #1 defensive player in the country coming out of high school, had a great freshman year, true freshman year at LSU, tore his ACL the next season. And this past season, which was kind of average for him, it was meh. This was his first year back on the field.
Wow.
New scheme defensively for LSU, 6'5", 310 pounds. And like I told Ashanti, that's 6'5", 310. I don't need you to be 340, 350. I want an interior defensive lineman that's between 6'5", 6'6", 310 to 320. A guy that can play up and down the defensive line, a guy that can get out in space and move. We want a game record.
Yeah, that's it.
And I know a lot of fans fall in love with T'Vondre Sweat the same way they fell in love with Jordan Davis. Now, the problem with T'Vondre Sweat is he's got the Jordan Davis shit working against him. Because Jordan showed up at the combine, blew everybody away. You had people here talking about Jordan Davis should be the #2 overall pick over Aiden Hutchinson and all this other dumb shit. And yes, and what's happened? Ask the fan base in Philadelphia how they feel about Jordan Davis right now. I just can't do it with nose tackles, bro. It's scary with nose tackles because these guys who give you 3 quality plays per game and then give you 15 plays of nothing, there's not room for that anymore. And to a guy like T'Vondre Sweat, and I've been saying for the last 2 years, Sweat would be, even though he's very athletic for 360, and he didn't weigh at the Senior Bowl, which was scary, which had me thinking, well, damn, there were rumors T'Vondre Sweat could be north of 380. I can't fuck with that, bro. Yeah. For lack of a better word, I can't. And you got people here talking about T'Vondre Sweat as a first-round pick. How is a guy who can barely give you 5% of the snaps a first-round guy? Like for them 4 plays per game that you give me, you better be causing 2 fumbles, bro. Like you better be really doing something out here. But a guy I do want to talk about real quick is Braden Fisk of Florida State, 6'5", 297, borderline 300. Ton of pressure the last couple years. Now he was better in 2022 than this year. I think this year Braden got caught up in a rotation of defensive linemen at Florida State. Didn't get as many snaps this year as he did last year, especially against the pass. But he's a dude that won over a lot of people at the Senior Bowl as well. So what you guys think about Braden Fisk if you guys had an opportunity to take a look at him?
He's okay. I mean, I think that, a lot of these guys are kind of like in the same boat as far as like size. I think a lot of them do different things. And I do think Brandon Fisk is a guy. I did look at him too, Walt, on Friday. I
He's
looked
an
at
ass
him.
whooper.
Yeah. And I like what I see. You know what I'm saying? He's another guy that gets me hype about this draft because it just shows me how deep and how we can't help but to improve our team this draft. It's just on defense, it's all there. It's just what flavor do you want? What scheme, you guys been saying, scheme wise, what's gonna work with Aaron Glenn, what's gonna be, the deciding factor. I think the combine, which I love the combine, I'm glad it's here finally. I think it's gonna separate a lot of these guys, gonna show a lot. As far as like physicality, because I'm a big proponent of, yeah, I mean, you really can't tell if a guy's going to be a good player. Look at Sam Laporta. I mean, we liked him come in the combine, but we didn't think he was going to pop the way he did. But yeah, Brandon Fisk is a Dan Campbell guy. You know what I'm saying? He's absolutely a Dan Campbell guy. And I do think that's huge. I mean, like Avery said, I don't know how we're going to keep going that path and being successful, though. You know what I'm saying? It's good to have, a guy that's less than, talent wise. He might be a 6 in talent, but he might try hard, but we kind of don't need that. We got guys like that already. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if Braden Fisk is sorry, I keep calling him Brandon. If he's the guy that you would say, he's like Dwayne Carter to me. I think with the right, I trust Aaron Glenn, so I'm gonna say we can make all of these guys work. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's just a matter of, what, like I said, what's your flavor and what do you think that's going to be addition to your team in a positive way? Do I see him on the field? I think he could be on the field. I think he's good enough to not be like a project. You know what I'm saying? Like he's good, you know what I'm saying? Walt, he's good enough out there where he could maybe, I'm not gonna say crack the starting lineup, but he could absolutely be a rotational player right off the bat. So I like Braden Fisk, but he didn't wow me, but he's just a guy, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah. I think with Braden Fisk, it's gonna be, and I hate to sound contradictory to my last statement. Remember, I was talking about wow. I think what Braden Fisk has going for him is the consistency of what he's doing. It's
Yep.
the it's the consistency of the stat line that he does, and the consistency of play in longevity. So I can weed out. I can weed out. Who was the last dude we talked about?
Dwayne Carter.
Dwayne Carter. So Dwayne Carter to me is Isaiah Bucks. Dwayne Carter gonna show up, do his job. That's it. He might
Yeah.
give me a sack. He might give me something. But over the course of 3 years, Dwayne Fisk has averaged 4 or 6 sacks. Over the course of 4 years, his first year, not his first year, but his first year playing full time was 2.5, and then we took a leap to 4, and then now we have 6 and 6 with the junior year and senior year. We see a guy that he has the length, he has the size, he can play probably inside and outside. He has that Kaminsky vibe to him, but the consistency is there. And that's what's going to really benefit him. Now, what he has to do, he has to match that consistency with his combine or match that consistency with his pro day. And he's going to be in that Dan Campbell conversation. And he's going to
Yeah.
be, well, this guy keeps coming up. He keeps showing up. Just like, I hate to say it, I love this guy to death, James Houston. James Houston kept coming up the draft board. Every other guy didn't check a box or something, but James Houston checked every box because of his consistency at Jackson State, because he was playing a different position, okay, defensive end, which they needed. And he was just consistent on tape and on film that whole year, graduate student, and he just tested well. And he had a good pro day. It was just a longevity of consistency. And if we go back to what Dan Campbell has said in the past, I hate to be long winded, but Dan Campbell has said, we don't want turds on this team. We don't want guys who show up one play and disappear the next. So those Jalen Carters are not going to exist here. Those this, those that. Cameron Sutton should not exist here, but he does. Bad. So at least he's consistent
Man.
being trash. Braden Fisk has has the identity of the Dan Campbell guy, but he has the composite of the Brad Holmes consistency, try hard, and we just have to elevate him as a coaching staff to the next level.
Yeah, I think I look at Braden as a more talented, younger version of Kaminsky. He's a guy who, and Ashanti and I discussed having somebody in the middle of that defensive line that can command a double team. Braden's that guy. The motor doesn't stop, and that's the number one for this organization, this culture. The dude runs hot for 60 minutes. There's no taking plays off. There's no loafing. When it's time to rush the passer, he's going to pin his ears back. When it's time to be patient, watch the football, read your gaps, know your assignments, get out in space, make tackles, he can do that as well. Now, is Braden going to be a first-round pick? I doubt it. But Braden is a guy who provides a lot more versatility than Dwayne Carter. Dwayne Carter is a 3-tech, and that's it. If you look at Fisk, just looking at how Florida State used him in this time that he was there, he played more time. This is a dude who played 5-tech last year. Now, he spent majority of his time at Florida State playing in that B gap at that 2 and that 2I for the most part. But they gave him some snaps at 4-tech over the tackle as well. His best year at Florida State was last year. He had an overall grade of 86.6, had 35 hurries, 8 sacks. Dude also had 392 pass rush snaps in comparison to only 263 this past year. So you got to look at as good as Braden got over the past 2 years at Florida State once he became a full-time starter. I tried to start looking at those numbers and seeing, well, you know what would those numbers be if he would have got 60, 70, 80 more pass rush snaps? So now we're looking at potentially Braden Fisk being a 10, 11, 12 sack guy at Florida State. Now the perception of Braden Fisk is different coming out of the draft because you see those numbers right there. But I would definitely say he's a guy who, depending on what this team did in the first round, if he's there in the second, if you took a corner in the first round or you took a corner with your first 2 picks, or you took a corner in the edge rusher with your first 2 picks, and Fisk is still there on the board, you got 2 second-round picks or you got 2 third-round picks, hell yeah, go for it. If I can get somebody in here that can get Kaminsky out of the door,
right,
I will do it.
Yeah, because now these guys have to prove their worth. Like we just seen a dude get walked out the building who just got a contract. That's why a contract doesn't mean anything. Our safety just got walked out the building because he was outplayed. He was outplayed by Kirby Joseph. He was outplayed by our free agent acquisition and Gardner Johnson. When you look at Fisk, you have the sacks totals that you mentioned, but you also have 9.5 TFLs. Okay, you have a guy. If you want to change the parameters and go to a attacking 4-3 defense, and you want to go towards a more wide 9 set, you have a guy in the middle that can take pressure, that can give pressure. He can attack, and guess what? He can pair with Alim McNeil and create something crazy on the edge. I mean, not on the edge, but in the middle. That's gonna help those edge rushers on the outside. So he checks the boxes for me, and I'm not saying that because I'm a stat junkie. I'm saying that because the production and the potential are meeting here. You know what I'm saying? When the production and the potential are meeting, we just have to test well, and we good.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to watch film with no purpose. Like sometimes you'll watch linebackers, and watching linebackers is boring as hell. It's the worst thing in the world because you waiting on them to do something. But when that
defensive lineman too.
You said what?
No, I said defensive lineman too. Like there's nothing more boring than, hey man, watch film of this guy, man. Check him out, and then you get like 70 snaps, dog, of just him and the offensive line massaging each other's shoulders.
Right.
Like, that's all you get.
That's it. That's all you get. But then you get, check this out. When you watch a guy like Burks, goes back to my prior point. When you watch a guy like Burks, now you can watch. Is that you or is that me? Is that
Ashanti, that's you?
What's that?
With some music.
That's your son. It might be.
Might be.
When you
Yeah.
watch a guy like Verse, who took on double teams for Verse to win? Like, you know what I'm saying? When you watch the film on Verse, who was
And we
next?
love Jared.
Come
And I love Jared Verse.
Come on. It'll reveal itself who the players are for real. And I love Jared Verse. Ain't got nothing bad to say about him, but that double team coming for a reason. You single out here for a reason. Ain't no just like you're an amazing guy. There's a reason that this happened. And that's what film does. So I love this player. And I hope that we get more of him in Detroit. Braden Fisk.
Yeah. I like Fist. What's up, Jeremy? I'm not gonna say that best fits. I think if one thing I've noticed about, and we all can agree upon this when it comes to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they sharing the brain on this. And one thing is for sure, they want, especially in the first round, they want playmakers. They want difference makers. And if they're going to draft a defensive tackle, not to say that I believe they've given up on Broderick Martin, because I don't believe that. I think Terrell Williams was brought here with the intent on him getting this reclamation project off the ground and potentially turning him into a player next year. But I think if they're going to go defensive line, not edge rusher, but if they're going to go strictly defensive lineman, they're going to go for the fences. They're going to swing for the fences. They want a big-time potential difference maker. That's why I brought up Mason Smith at LSU. I think Smith of LSU has the most upside of any defensive tackle in this class when he's cooking. And you're looking at a guy who, considering the fact that he played this past year. He missed the previous year. Smith only played pretty much half a season his freshman year and showed you a lot. So this is a young dude who could have went back to college, honestly, but this is a young dude with probably the most physical gifts out of any defensive tackle in his class. And you're talking about 6'5", 315. Like, he's a game wrecker. He's built like that Chris Jones, that game wrecker type of dude that we've been crying for a long time. So I do believe if they go defensive tackle, it won't be another try-hard dude. I don't think it'll be Tavondre Sweat, simply because I don't think you can invest a first-round pick in a guy that can't even give you 60% of the snaps. Now, if he falls and you want to, the thing with him is that I think you have to have another defensive tackle aside of him, because him and McNeil has gotten better as a pass rusher. Aleem still isn't an elite pass rusher on the interior. So You're talking about having him next to Tavondre Sweat, two guys who can push the pocket, but they're not really consistent pass rushers on the inside. So now what do you have next to that? So now Aiden is still dealing with consistent double teams, because Tavondre can't give it to you consistently. That guy that on the interior can consistently demand double teams. So let's move on from that guy, man. Let's talk about your boy. I think all three of us know all about Michael Hall Jr. We've seen a lot of him at Ohio State.
Yeah.
He's another guy. I think his best football, similar to Mason Smith, is ahead of him. Just didn't play enough at Ohio State. But once he got on the field as a starter, he showed a lot. And Ashanti, I know you really like him too.
Yeah. I like Michael Hall Jr., man. He looked nice, Lions uniform. Perfect guy, man. He violent as hell with his hands. I know he usually, you can't guard him one-on-one. I think that was at least in the Big Ten, and I think he was in the backfield a lot. I really like Michael Hall Jr., man. I wish that perfect scenario for me. We can use a second-round pick on him. That would be ideal. I mean, I think he would be there. You know what I'm saying? In the second round, I don't think he's a first-round talent, but he's a guy that you probably won't say he's a top 10 defender or anything like that. But I think with this team, I think he could be a guy, like you said, that could be like better in the pros than he was in college. Okay. Just playing off this, what we're trying to do here in Detroit. So I think that Michael Hall Jr. is absolutely a prospect, man. I like everything about him on tape. He's a guy that gets his hands up quick, what I'm saying, makes a move quick,
that first step.
Yeah, the first step is hell of a, man. I think that this is the kind of guy, like, again, he's not like the sexy pick out there. You know what I'm saying? He's not the guys that's gonna be the top 10 guys that's taken. But whoever gets Michael Hall Jr. is gonna have himself a football player, man. He's played in with Ohio State. Now the Big Ten, I'm not going to be the one to trash the conference and say it's not elite, but I beg to differ. I do think if you play defensive line for Ohio State, that you can play ball, man. I don't think that, you know what I'm saying? You ain't playing for Ohio State and you can't play. So I just think that Michael Hall Jr. would be great, for our team. Is he? I don't think he's 300. I don't think he's 300 pounds or anything like that. I think
Nah,
he's like a
he's
slim.
dramatically
like,
undersized.
yeah,
You're talking about
I think
6'2", 280.
Yeah. I was gonna say 285. I know I had his measurables, but yeah, I like everything about him.
Right. I think that he's going to benefit. Oh, is it my go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to benefit from those stunts and those NASCAR packages. Like he's one of the guys to me that's a tweener. Just looking at him right now, I just feel like he's a tweener. He can play inside. He's played inside, but I feel like he has the burst of an outside player. I think that when you look at him, he's creating a lot of mismatches because of his hands, because of his first step, and he's devaluing everyone in that guard and center box because those are good players he's going up against, usually for the most part, against Iowa, against Michigan State. Those are good players. And he's showing them up every chance he gets. I think he can play the outside. I think he can play inside. I don't think he needs to gain weight. There are some guys that feel like this guy, oh, he's 280. I need to get him 20 pounds heavier. Not really. What you need to do is you need to keep him in that 4-3, keep him in that type of NASCAR package or that wide 9 package, and let him go to work one-on-one because he has the hand skills. He has the authority. He's what Anzarike would have evolved into if Anzarike actually evolved as a player and he didn't hurt his back. Like, this is what you want. You want a guy with violent hands who can disengage at the point of attack, and then he can get around the offender, if you will. He can get around the offender, and he can get skitty at any moment, whether it's going left or right or using his lateral quickness. He's one of those guys that can punch, disengage. And those players usually rise to the top of the draft. Look, we don't want to have a defensive tackle just I'm doing my job, sir. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want you grabbing the guard and all this other nonsense. I don't want you getting manhandled, creating stalemates. When he has a win rate that's going to be consistently on par with the higher echelon pass rushers. He might give you something in the run game in terms of he might shoot his gap too early. He might get upfield too early. But that's just something you're going to have to deal with because this is a passing league and he's trying to get a sack every play. And that's the players that we need on this team. We don't need I'm grateful to be here. We need I'm here and now you have to deal with me. That's the type of player I think he is.
Yeah. I can agree. I think Michael Hall is, once again, like you said, another tweener. Josh Pascal, another tweener. Now, I do believe Michael Hall provides much more pass rush ability than Josh does. Josh may be a more versatile player, but when Michael Hall, the physical tools he's shown, the get off, the handwork, his ability to hold his own at the point of attack, only being 280, it's just crazy. Now, I would disagree on this with him. I think Michael Hall has the body type to get to 300. That dude's rocked up. He's solid as hell. If you look at how he's built, long arms and everything, he's only 6'2", but he's got long arms. So I do believe he's got the body type, the composite, where he can get to 300. Or he may not have to get to 300. If you want to, I don't like him at 280 at all. Now, if we can get him to 295, 297, 300, which I believe they're going to get him, whoever gets him is going to put some more weight on him. But I agree. I think he's a guy who has some pass rush ability, putting him at some four-tech. You line him up over certain tackles, especially tackles who don't deal with guys who transfer speed to power very well. He's going to eat all day, for sure. But let's talk about the dude you talked about, man, Jonah Ellis. He ain't no defensive tackle. Let's get it out the way first. Jonah ain't no defensive tackle. Jonah had, 14 sacks on the season for Utah, I believe, man. Hell of a pass rusher. I discussed this ad nauseum about this 4-2-5 defense and how he kind of alienates us from getting a lot of these collegiate 4-3 defensive ends that will be converted into 3-4 outside linebackers. So we kind of stuck right now for the most part. But talk about Jonah Ellis and what you really like about him.
I think Jonah Ellis' first step. I just see Jonah Ellis as Aiden Hutchinson. And I think Aiden Hutchinson's first season, when we saw Aiden Hutchinson with his hand in the ground, and he wasn't getting as many sacks as he should have gotten that first 4 games. And we're asking, why does he have his hand in the ground? And why does he have a hand in the ground? But when he was able to stand up and able to get that first step, when he was able to, in that first year, just get a running start, just start outside, maybe at a 9 technique, just start outside and get a running start. I see more Aiden Hutchinson and Jonah Ellis because he does do the spin move. He does rely on the bull rush. He does the classic things. He's not really doing a lot in his hand movement, in his preparation. He's just getting the best step. He's getting the best angle to the quarterback, and he's wreaking havoc. It's almost like his talent level is probably a 6, but he's getting the most out of that 6. He's getting 100% out of that 6, and 12 sacks says it. 10 TFL says it. Like, you can't find this type of player that's this tall, this height, this ready, and he's just on the outside and just knocking shit down every day. And I just feel like a player like that, even when he does have his hand on the dirt, I feel like, he's a little vulnerable. But when he stands up and he just has an angle at the quarterback, I feel like maybe in a 3-4 system, he'll be great. But as a defensive end, he is every bit of it. He's every bit of that. He can disengage. He's going to hold. He's going to do all the things that people don't like. He's going to hold. He's going to get in a stalemate. He's going to wow you one play, and then he's going to disappoint you the next. He's going to do that consistently. But the thing about it, those wow plays are outnumbering the bad plays, okay? Because he can play contain on the outside against these running quarterbacks. We saw him against 3 running quarterbacks last season. We saw him go up against the USC, okay? The USC. And he wasn't falling for none of that Caleb Williams stuff. Ellis is by far, to me, one of my favorite prospects in the 2-point stance. And yes, he reminds me every bit of Aiden Hutchinson. His motor doesn't go off. His ability doesn't stop. Yes, he does. He doesn't have the wow factor, but he has the production. And that's what I care about. I don't care about nothing else. I care about the product and the production. He's not the sexiest name on the board, and he's not the most Hey, look, they got a sexy name on the board named Chop Robinson. Boy got 4 sacks in the Big Ten. What are you doing? I don't even know what that boy was doing. But yeah, I'm excited when it comes to Ellis.
You know what, man?
Yeah.
He reminds me of, even though the guy I'm going to compare him to is a bigger guy, Will McDonald from Iowa State a year ago, a guy who, even though Will McDonald didn't have anywhere near the production statistically that Jonah had, he was a little bit bigger than Jonah too. But when you went back and you watched McDonald on film at Iowa State, he played out of position a lot. It just looked like, why the fuck are you lining him up where you lining him up at? Jonah Ellis is 6'2", 246. And how many times did you see him lined up in the B gap? And they was lining him at 310. This dude what really set my alerts off on him was the fact that, okay, he had 13 sacks, but he had 13 sacks playing out of position. Mm-hmm. Like, he spent most of his time lined up wide for the most part, but they lined him up. He had success against some tackles at 4 tech.
Boy was going crazy.
So it's like, okay, despite the fact that your defensive coordinator lined you up out of position, maybe he didn't. Maybe he knew, like, you know what, I got a freak out here at 6'2", 246 that I can throw in the B gap and can give some centers hell and can give some demand some double teams from some centers and some guards for the matter. But the 6'2", 246, man.
And he plays bigger than that. He plays
does.
Like he's 6'6".
He does.
Boy, he does. Crazy.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. And we discussed James Houston in the pre-show as well. There's nothing about James Houston that would stop me from drafting another edge rusher. Like, I think a lot of Lions fans, and this happens, as a fan base, you fall in love with the flashes. You know, everybody, and I hope he gets to what we witnessed towards the end of his rookie season a year ago. But the fact of the matter is, I can't keep giving you the benefit of the doubt and holding on to what I saw in the final 5 games of 2022. We're building this team moving forward, and if we can get another undersized edge rusher around his size and whatnot, I'm all for it. So, you know, you're looking at a guy like Jonah Ellis, Leatu Latu from UCLA. He's more prototypical of what we probably need. You're talking about a guy who's 6'5". We'll find out how tall he really is. You know, they tell you all of this BS in college, but we find out the truth at not even pro days. They lie at pro days too. The schools lie at the pro days. So we're gonna find out the truth about all these dudes this week coming up. How tall they really are, how big or how small their hands are, how fast they really are. The 4.2 guy quickly becomes a 4.43 guy. Yeah. Once the shorts with all the truth comes out. All the truth comes out. But let's talk about Chris Jenkins, man, a guy from here.
Yeah.
Because he's another guy who's around 6'3", 280, 285. Son of former All-Pro. Chris Jenkins played for the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets for that matter. I like him a lot, man. First of all, he's what kind of turns me off about him. I'm going to start with that. These Michigan players, like these Michigan defensive linemen in general, haven't had the most success. Think about all the names that have came out over the past 3 years out of Michigan along that front seven. Remember, there was top 5, top 10 hype around Kwity Paye. Morris. They came out this past year.
Went to Seattle. You talking about?
Yeah. Morris. I forgot his first name. Yeah, Mike Morris. Mike Morris. Another one of those tweeners. Like we fall in love with the 6'6", 290 guys. The guy that we look at and say, you know what? He can play some 4-tech. He can play this tech. He can play that tech. He got all the techs. He letting off all the techs. And then when we get out on the field, you find out that, okay, you got so much versatility because you're not that great at any of these positions. Now, what worries me about Chris, the arm length, he's a lead in run defense, but Mason Graham is the better player. And Mason Graham will probably be undoubtedly a top 15 pick next year when he comes out. So I look at Chris like, okay, you know what? Were you benefiting from him or was he benefiting from you? Because every time I watch Michigan on film, Mason Graham consistently looks like the better overall prospect. But we here in Michigan, we're Michigan fans overall, man. What do y'all think about Chris Jenkins?
Yeah, I like Chris. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm negative, but he just don't do it for me, man. I don't know. I would take 5 or 6 guys over him. You know what I'm saying?
Honest Ashanti, and this is a hometown player we talking about now. We keep it honest on here. We not these biased ass people who gonna tell you every Michigan prospect is about to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, I would
carry
for
on.
me. No. I was just gonna say, well, I would take the better offensive lineman over him, to be honest with you. If Zach Frazier's there from West Virginia on the O-line, I would take him over him. I would take a number of guys. Let's see, I got it written down here. Avery's guy, Leonard Taylor. I would take Leonard Taylor over him.
I agree.
I would, you know what I'm saying? Let's see here. Obviously, I would take Fabian Lovett Sr. over him, from Florida State. You know what I'm saying? That's not knocking Chris Jenkins. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. I'm just saying
you are kind of knocking him a little bit.
Yeah, to me, he just doesn't. I mean, for me, their defensive line was good, and I think it was a collection of guys that played well together as a unit, well coached. I mean, that Michigan defense is well coached. I mean, that's the only thing you could say. That everybody can agree on, and that I'm out on Chris Jenkins real high. I mean, he'd have to be like 3rd round or something like that for me, because I would absolutely I would absolutely take other guys over him. But I like what I seen, as far as like what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at. Like big games. I mean, he would make a play or two. He just wasn't enough of an impact guy. I think Michael Hall was more of an impact player than him, to be honest with you. Correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, Avery.
No. I don't think you're wrong at all. What the thing about him is that watching all 22 right now, a lot of the plays I've seen, the cut-ups I've seen, he gets lost in trash, and that's your reasoning for hating him. Like he really gets lost in trash. He doesn't demand a double team. He can take advantage of a player that's lesser than him. He basically is benefiting off lower tier talent at all times. Now, when we look at one-on-one, he's still outmatched. He still, goes around the quarterback and doesn't just go straight forward. So the pursuit and the tackling, the actual motion is off there. And then when he does get home, the ball's already thrown. So what we're seeing is a lot of hit and miss product, right? So on the running game, you're getting lost in trash. So the zone read is not really working for you because it seems like you're smaller than what you are on the zone read. So even when you play the outside or the inside, you still on your knees at the point of attack. When that zone read is coming your way, you're not even making a play. And then when you do make the play, it's because of a pile of trash is there. It's not the fact that you're up in the forefront and actually dominating the position or dominating the other man. It's almost like you got a tackle for tripping. When we look at another part of his game where pass rushing, it is not. I don't know why this said this. The video I'm looking at right now is crazy because it said, "Is he the best defensive tackle?" And I can tell you he's not. He's not. Nothing about this, especially the game against Penn State, is showing me the best of anything.
I can't believe it either, especially when I'm size biased when it comes to this. Like I hear all this stuff about making Feldman's freak lists and this and that, and we heard the same thing about Kwity Paye. Like it's one thing being dumb strong in college and undersized. When you get to the NFL, now you talking about 6'2", 6'2 and a half, 280, bro. I don't care how powerful and freakishly strong, how much you squat in college. When you get to the NFL, that dude who's 6'6", think about it, Frank Ragnow is considered by NFL standards a big center. Right. And you talking about 6'6", 330. So what is Chris really going to do with a guy like that? It's crazy.
I'm seeing a play where he's on a trap. He goes upfield. He turns left. The thing is, the trap is headed towards him. So what he needs to do is stay home and fight through the trash. He actually gets lured into crashing down. He gets lured, and I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm not misrepresenting.
No, you making.
I'm laughing at the comment Roy made about I'll take his dad at 29, but not him.
Yeah, he's not a first round pick at all. He's not a first round pick. He might be a fourth or fifth round pick, and he it's like he moves with the trap. So if for people at home, if I'm the guard and you're guarding me, and the hole is going to be on your right shoulder, you want to push me inside toward your center on the left shoulder. It's like he is voluntarily being pushed inside. So he thinks he's crashing. He thinks he's doing something right, but the trap is coming up the hole he was just at. So that tells me he's not a technician. So when I seen that little comment, like, oh, he's a technician, the film is showing you everything.
Yeah, he's not.
I think Chris is a good player. But if you're drafting him to be Quinnen Williams or you're drafting him, and it's hard because it's so difficult finding these type of guys. Like we don't want another Aleem McNeil, and I love Aleem, but Aleem has come a long way from what he was at NC State. NC State did him a complete disservice, and that's what bothers me about a lot of these college programs is I get it. It's about winning. As a college coach, I want to win, so therefore my coordinators keep their jobs. I keep my job. Positional coaches keep their jobs. But they don't – a lot of these college offenses and defenses do not do their young players a solid service at all. We talked about Will McDonald earlier. Will McDonald, Why is a guy the size of Will McDonald playing 3-tech or playing 2-eye? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why, if you look at Clemson defense, do you have big-time pass rushers dropping into coverage constantly? But you can ask the same thing about Dabo's offense. Like, why do you have a 6'5", 250-pound DJ Uyunglele running draws and pulling and doing all types of goofy stuff? Well, that's because if you look at Clemson's offense, from Taj Boyd to Kelly Bryant to Trevor Lawrence to Deshaun Watson, he's always done that with his quarterback. So he figures, well, DJ, you're going to do the same damn thing. And it didn't work. So, like I said, man, Chris, if you're drafting Chris Jenkins with the potential of him becoming, because that's what everybody wants now. Nobody wants the Vince Wilforks anymore. Nobody wants. Well, they'll take a Richard Seymour because Richard Seymour was versatile enough to actually push the pocket and get some sacks and create some pressure. But if you're drafting him to be Aaron Donald or another one of these John Randall, another one of these undersized, those dudes are once in a lifetime type players at that type of size. And I just think that somebody's going to reach for Chris a little early. And they're going to be disappointed unless he ends up in a situation where he's on the defensive line with, maybe he lands on the defensive line next to a dude who can command a double team consistently.
I feel like this, what I'm seeing on film is a classic case of the Jerrys. Remember Atlanta? Like, I think 2006, they drafted a guy named Jerry.
Oh, Pariah Jerry?
Yep. And he wasn't an attacking 4-3 guy because in college he didn't get no sacks. He didn't have no production because you got to be stupid. I'm watching his, like, he has to be the stupidest player I've ever seen.
Damn.
Or he has to be a player that is told to stay in their gap and just fight and create space. Like Jerry was told. Jerry was told this when he was drafted to Atlanta. And he had a little thing like in college. I had to stay in my gap, and I couldn't really rush the passer. But they're letting me rush the passer. And I was thinking about myself. I'm a kid at this time. Like, why wouldn't you want your defensive tackle to rush the passer? And it's about really like stopgap support. It's like control your gap, mind your gap. Detroit was doing this for a while, especially year one. And I feel like when I see this play, this outside zone to the right side, off the right tackle's hip. This outside zone is a perfect way for him to get upfield and create a TFL in the backfield. And it's almost like he's scared to create the tackle because he has a gap to the running back right there. Like he can get there, blow up the play, make a great play. He just stays in his gap. No one's blocking him. He fights through trash. He gets through the block, and now he's just there like this. He's there like this. And I'm like, what are you miming? Are you gonna mime the running back to death? What are you doing? Running back goes out for a 1-yard gain because the linebacker he disengaged and tackled the running back. I'm like, someone's telling him not to attack. Someone's telling him not to crash down. Someone's telling him to stay in the gap. Because you can't be this bad on film. You can't be this bad where you're on your knees on run plays. You see a gap, you're not shooting a hole, you're not getting a field, and you're the strongest man alive. So I would have to sit down with him like, what was we thinking on this play? And what was we thinking on this play? And what was the objective of this play? Because there's so many plays where he's just there. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like he's not making the play, but he's around the play. Like you're not nothing. It's like somebody just hurrying up to work.
But that's what I said. But you can tell the drastic difference between him and Mason Graham. Drastic difference. And someone in the comment section brought up Kalijah Kancey. The thing about Kancey is also Kancey was a complete liability in the run game, though. So if you go back to his success in Tampa this season, he wasn't really on the field in rundowns. They washed him out completely, a lot. And I see Apollo has in here. Let me see, read this comment. Kalijah Kancey was undersized and was working Sewell when we played him. I don't know how often they lined him up at 4-tech over Sewell. I doubt if he was working Penei Sewell. I'll have to see. I'll have to
Yeah,
see the film on that.
yeah, he must have been working Panay Sewell real good because we won the game. I just don't understand these people.
Yeah.
Wow, he was working Sewell. I never heard that till today.
I don't even know how
Yeah.
much he
Like 3
lined up
months
at
later.
Fortech or even outside 4I to even get an opportunity to work Sewell. Not saying it didn't happen, but I don't remember Kalijah Cansey lining up at Fortech too much against Panay Sewell and
Yeah,
giving Panay Sewell fits.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah, only thing I can say is I think somebody put the next I think our guy Roy put Brian Murphy. That was the guy I wanted to get
Yeah.
to too. I like Brian Murphy a lot. You know what I'm saying? That could be he's down on the list of players, but I think a list of players that like people are bringing up. But I think Brian Murphy, Roy, I would love to take Brian Murphy. You know what I'm saying?
I can't say him either.
You can't really say
I,
I like Brian Murphy,
I
man.
like
Byron Murphy. I
you
just
know,
think that
I'll
he's
give him this credit. Your boy Penix said after the game when they played Texas in the BCS championship, then the playoffs, he said Byron Murphy was a menace in that game. Like Murphy was constantly in the backfield. Kind of undersized though. Another 6 foot, but he's a 6 foot interior passer. Another is like
interior guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult with these 6 foot guys, 5'11 and a half, 6'1". I'm not sure if he's 6'1". He's listed as 6'1". I'm not sure Byron Murphy's 6'1", but if we're talking about him and another guy on here, I'm not as high on him as I am Jerzon Newton. I do think Byron Murphy has a more versatile pass rush repertoire. But if you're talking about like consistently, and you get games, not necessarily games, but you get spurts throughout games where both of these guys don't show up. There's plays, it happens with defensive tackles. Some of it's based on blocking schemes along the offensive line. Sometimes they aim to take you away in certain game plans or certain drives for that matter. But I like Jerzon Newton a lot.
Yeah, he reminds me just one thing on Brian. He reminds me of a young Dexter Lawrence. That's what I look at with Brian Murphy. You know what I'm saying? A little bit more athletic to me.
Way smaller than Dexter too. Dexter was a beast at Clemson.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna keep an asterisk. That's one of my guys coming into the combine too.
Well, Byron might be the first defensive tackle off the board. So I mean, you ain't wrong for liking him. He might end up being the first defensive tackle off the board, but
now Jerzon, your guy, I gotta look at some tape. Like, I'm in touch with Illinois football, and I have seen Jerzon play, but I gotta see where he ranks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like the kid that, like I said, Avery brought up the Taylor kid from Miami.
Leonard Taylor.
Leonard Taylor.
I don't get why people so down on him too.
Yeah, I like
him. He's a guy that Leonard Taylor's been probably the most polarizing not nose tackle, but defensive tackle in this class. I've seen him throughout the season, top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20. Now I'm seeing him bottom end of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see? Not you guys personally, but this is what I don't get with a lot of these talent evaluators. You watch the same film all season long on these guys.
Yeah.
What the hell have you seen over the past 2 months that have taken you and changed your mind on some guys to take them from top 15 to bottom of the second round with some of these guys, man? And if you're talking about just pure talent when it comes to collapsing the pocket and rushing the passer on the interior, it's probably him. Byron Murphy, who, like I said, is a little undersized for my liking. And then Mason Smith, LSU. Like those are, and then Jerzon Newton. Those to me are the 4 guys on the interior that are potential big-time game wreckers. And Mason Smith may be a 3rd round pick.
Yeah. Somebody gonna get a good football player. Well, remember, I just mentioned he on a list. I just want to mention to the listeners, they might not know who the hell Marshawn Nealon is from Western. I watched the tape on him. I advise. I mean, Avery might know him, but man, he raw as hell. I think there's going to be a big combine for him because he looked like a just raw. I mean, he may not even get drafted, that type of thing. But I'm not going to sit here and say, he's going to be this round or that round. But it's something there with that kid too. Highly productive, good sack guy. You know what I'm saying? At Western, if anybody has some time to kill. You know what I'm saying? Take out Marshawn Nealon as well. Well, I'll go down past Jerzon Newton. I thought it was one other guy on that list when I was looking at it earlier. Is it Chop Robinson? Darius Robinson. That's what I want to talk to. You guys see anything you like or dislike on Darius? What y'all take on Darius? I'll give you mine after y'all say so. Darius Robinson from Missouri.
Avery, what you think?
I was about to type in Chop Robinson, but we know my take on Chop. He's not going to make the cut.
Yeah.
Darius Robinson, someone I've heard about, haven't had time to look at him. Honestly, I was gonna take the time out today to look at him, but me and my wife got caught on the last Airbender series. We watched that all day with my daughter, and I'm really anxious to see what he can do at the point of attack in terms of engaging and disengaging, because that is something we got caught up in on the Detroit Lions defensive line, is we didn't disengage. So to be a prospect that I'm looking at, it's not just about numbers. It's about what you're doing with your hands, how you're engaging and disengaging. Do you have pass rush moves? It's kind of like, I don't really look for that. I look, how are you getting off blocks? Are you getting off blocks with speed to power? Are you a technician guy? Are you so much of a technician in the passing game that you have no skills in the running game? Are you doing this like our boy we just saw? So I'm really anxious to see Darius Robinson this week.
And the only reason why I said something is this. It scared me to death because I done seen a lot of mock drafts, and I seen a couple that got this kid pegged to us, and I'm scared to death. I'll let Walt talk, but I wouldn't take that kid that high. That's all I want to say.
I don't know. I try to judge all of these players, all these young men on their own merit. A lot of times I think throughout the draft process, we get caught up in, the comparisons, especially watching a guy on film. He reminds me of this guy, that guy. If it's a guy he reminds you of in a positive way, you cool with it. If you got to reminds you of a guy in a negative way, you say, hell no. But if you're talking about, let me look at this, because look at his measurables, which I found, this is a big thing why people really fell in love with this guy. But you're talking about a dude who is 6'5", 296. Once again, that's that mold that we all seem to love for those outside tackles. Not outside tackles, but those outside edge rushers, those guys who can play some 5-tech. Darius got better every year. That's all you can ask for out of a lot of these guys. Now, people say, well, it's like you damned if you do, damned if you don't. If a guy starts out his freshman year great and then steadily gets worse the next couple of years, where he was a one-hit wonder, he's a guy that started out quick, faded off. If you're a guy that gets better every year to look at, well, he started out poorly. He's a guy who, if you look at his chart, the more snaps he got, the better he produced. Sacks went up every single year with his snap count going up. Hurries went up, quarterback hits went up, tackles went up. He's a guy who he handled things the way you would want it to be handled, especially for an edge rusher. The more opportunities we gave you, the more you produced. Now you're talking about a guy who I think is 24 years old, though he's not the youngest for that matter. I've seen Robinson mocked to the Detroit Lions at 29 and a few different mocks over the past few days. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that's going to get settled, I believe, over the next week. If he made a name for himself, first of all, at the Senior Bowl. Started there. But he reminds me a lot of Keion White. Keion White had that same meteoric rise last year out of Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
He had that monster game against North Carolina last year. But outside of that monster game against North Carolina, it was kind of hit or miss with him. But everybody got caught up in the 6'4.5", 6'5", 290, can play multiple spots on the line. Didn't do a whole lot this past season as far as helping out that New England defense. He was decent, but similar to what Tyree Jackson was last year for the Raiders. So jury's not out on either one of those guys, but Darius Robinson, man, he's a freak. He's gonna show out this week coming up. So I wouldn't be shocked if they had him on the board. The potential is there, but for me, it still wouldn't be the pick. I would prefer a guy on the interior. If we're gonna go edge rusher, I prefer a pure edge rusher, a smaller guy, a Chris Braswell, a Dallas Turner, a guy that's out of that Will Anderson mold, coming from that same school. So I think we all kind of like, even though Avery, you said you haven't seen enough, haven't watched enough film on him yet, but he's a guy who I think we're both, all of us are questionable on because we haven't seen quite enough of him. But the production was there this season. When you go back, because I didn't pay him any attention at all season. Ennis Reekstraw, the cornerback, watched him a little bit. I love the wide receiver. I forgot the wide receiver's name. Big time recruit coming out of high school. He's done pretty well since he's been there, but all of us are pretty much on the same board as him, at least for right now. Chop Robinson, while we're still just going through the actual linemen, edge rushers or whatnot, they got them all lumped together for that most part. Chop Robinson, Nolan Smith. That's the first thing that jumped out of my mind is that people are going to see this freak athlete. Remember Nolan Smith went to the combine last year, ran a 4.3.
Mm-hmm.
You had people on the radio here talking about Nolan Smith needs to be who did we take? They were talking about us trading up for Nolan Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were. I remember.
Because of a damn 40 time.
Yeah.
They didn't give a damn about the fact that Nolan couldn't rush the passer. First of all, he's an undersized pass rusher. Mm-hmm. He had short arms. He had absolutely no pass rush moves.
Joke.
And then on top of that, he's another Georgia player who we haven't seen. We haven't gotten a lot of fruitful returns on any of those Georgia defensive players for the most part, man. So what do y'all think of Chop Robinson? We've been seeing first round, top 10 projections for Chop all season. A lot of people are cooled off on Chop Robinson. He's a guy I'm looking at. I think he's too big of a project for me, though.
I think – is it Shot you want to go?
No, go ahead, Avery. Go ahead.
I think these guys have good agents. Darius has a good agent. And Chop has a great agent. Chop got a whole media company behind him. Because he's managed to chop the competition down to him and another defensive end, or defensive interior lineman with Murphy. Chop Robinson has not shown me on film, on tape, on highlight, or on stat sheet that he's actually a first-round pick. Matter of fact, I think everything but his nickname is trash about him. So the fact that we're talking about a guy consistently who just I read an article yesterday on Chop Robinson.
Freak list, though. Don't forget about the freak list.
This article is crazy. He gets the job done with his hands. And I say, oh, yeah, okay.
No gloves.
So we wasn't talking about actual hand placement. We wasn't talking about getting under the pads, getting that offensive tackle off leverage. We wasn't talking about that. We was talking about the fact that we go to work with our bare hands. Like every other working American in the world, we go to work with our bare hands. And I remember this. I'm like, this dude has an agent. He has a machine that he's pumping into. Because ain't no way this guy has this much publicity with 4 sacks. Ain't no way in the world. And Penn State has not been too kind to the defensive ends of the world. I mean, we got Ezekiel Ansible. He was really a linebacker, pass rushing linebacker. And he came out of BYU. I mean, Michael Parsons.
Yeah.
I haven't, had no issues with the Penn State machine since Michael Parsons. I love Michael Parsons coming out. But Michael Parsons actually showed me something on film consistently. He actually wreaked havoc. It wasn't just something, a quotable term some man came up with. And no, that dude, Chop Robinson, is hot garbage, pure garbage, and he's going to lose his nickname by the time he gets to camp and he doesn't make anything happen. By the time he gets to the season and he has to come on at the end of the year in garbage time against garbage quarterbacks and get some some charity sacks. I just feel like he's not what people expect him to be, and it is just very obvious. Like when we're talking about his hands and we're not talking about his play. We're talking about what he can do and how he fit, not talking about the actual stats or the actual game tape. It's misleading. So I don't know what marketing company he's with. He might be with Jay-Z. I don't know. But they've taken this from his play and made it about other shit that does not matter.
Well, all right. Let's move on.
I ain't got nothing to say past that.
Hey, listen, man, I'm gonna say this, bro. I don't know what it really was with Chop Robinson this past season. I thought the other dude, Abdullah, was a better edge rusher, better linebacker overall. I thought there were three guys on that defense that were better players, better prospects than him. The Chop thing is part of it. I think people like the name Chop Robinson. They like the whole he goes to work with his bare hands, with his fingers taped up, just like Nolan Smith. They love the fact that he was on the freaks list. They love these freaks. Like, you have to be a freak in order to be a great football player or a really good football player. How many of these freaks get drafted that turn into nothing? That's it. That's it. And Robert Spardell made a valid point because he played mean and he explosive. Yeah, but when you get to the NFL and you're dealing with those 6'5", 6'6" tackles, the dancing bears, I call them, who are athletic and powerful as hell like everybody else in college is, if you don't have any pass rush moves, it's hard to just overpower people unless you have an elite trait. Now, is Chop Robinson an elite athlete? I believe so. Is he an elite pass rusher right now? No. Does he have a whole lot of work to do to become even an average pass rusher, translating to the next level? He sure does, but I can't really touch Chop Robinson like that right now. Let's talk Jared Verse, man. I think we all love Jared Verse. Yeah. Jared Verse is an angry man, bro.
Yeah.
A very, very angry man. He plays very fast. If you're talking about get off, the only thing Jared Verse has going against him is the age a little bit. Now, he was a big-time pass rusher. He was a big-time pass rusher at Temple. He put up the numbers at Temple, transferred over to Florida State. Could have been a top 20 pick last year, came back. I don't think he did anything to fall off at all as far as that. I love Jared Verse. He's a guy that he's in that size realm right where I would like him to be. We'll find out what he measures up at over the next week, but he's in that group of just skilled pass rushers.
Yeah, I agree. Jared Verse, impact player. I mean, man, perfect scenario for me is he's there and we take him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. If he's there at 29, it's a choice to be made.
It's a noise. It's a no-brainer. I mean, the only choice could be if Braylon Trice is there. You know what I'm saying? That could
love Braylon too.
Braylon. You know, them guys, man. I really like Jared Verse. I just wish that he would be there. I mean, I don't think I didn't see a weakness. I ain't gonna lie. You know, he got around the edge pretty good. He helped support the run. He got off his block pretty good. His hands were a little high to me, but I think that, you know, like I said, that's coachable. That's nothing. I mean, that's an advantage if you can use it and don't get caught for holding, that type of thing. So Jared Verse, a ball player, dude. And he's gonna get knocked obviously for playing in the ACC, but again, Florida State was a high-level program, man, especially on defense. They got some players. So, you know, when the fact of the matter is, when we're talking, you know, the Lions needing a player of this of impact of magnitude, and I think Jared Verse is the guy. I mean, he checks off a lot of boxes. I mean, right now, if you was to tell me, even if I think Roy, my guy, we always lockstep, and he even said that they would trade up to get the guy they want. I could see them trading up and get this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, we discussed that in the pre-show about if Verse is on the board at 22, 23, 24, yeah.
He could trade. And then let's be honest. We don't need 7 try hard, 4 project. We need
polished players.
a couple impact players out this draft, and we
Yeah.
right where we need to be. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to stockpile picks. That's not who we are right now. You know what I'm saying? So if you was to tell me we was to trade up to get Jared Verse 6-7 spots, I'd love it. You know what I'm saying? Because this is my guy. I got a top 10, but we'll get into that closer to the draft. But he's absolutely on my list right now, Walt, as one of top 10 impact players in his draft.
Yeah, Jared Verse is on fire. Jared Verse can't do nothing wrong. I think that this draft is actually going to benefit the Lions so much so because of the offensive players coming out, preferably the quarterbacks. You have 3 quarterbacks getting taken off the board. That's going to push your defensive ends, your solid tackles for teams like Chicago. That's going to push them down the board. Do they deserve to be down the board? No. Joe Alt doesn't deserve to be down the board, but the needs of other teams are going to come before the needs of the draft picks. So Jared Verse should be in a perfect world the first defensive end taken off the board the first day. However, I think he's gonna fall. And if he's at 12, I think you should trade up and you should start leveraging future contracts. I think we could leverage future draft picks, especially our 2025 third round pick, because I think one of these coaches, preferably Aaron Glenn, is going to get a job, and we're going to get I don't want to call it a minority pick, but we're going to get a minority pick pretty soon. I don't like.
They gonna send it in the mail in a nice crispy gold envelope, minority pick on it.
Yeah, exactly. Look. I'm as black as they come. I got a giraffe in the back. Okay, I'm as black as they come. Okay. I just feel like if there's an opportunity to trade up to get a Jared Verse in the top 12, in the top 11 players, you might as well. I think Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell can make that trade up, and I think the fan base to go along with it. I don't really care about the cap room issues because we're 65 million up. I don't care about how do we make it work. There's only 1 or 2 players in this crop that I want. I want my Quinyon Mitchells, but he's probably going to be in the second round. And I want my Jared Verses. I want a defensive end that can come inside, come outside. He can be a game changer. Opposite of I was about to say Jared Goff, opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. And that's what we're going to need. We're going to need players like that. And to get those type of players, you're going to have to trade up because teams are going to see that and they're going to trade up. Teams who didn't historically get pressure last year. Washington might want to trade down to get a Jared Verse because he's going to create a new culture. We've seen a team last year. The Texans got 2 pivotal players just by trading up and betting on themselves. So I'm all for Jared Verse. If you bring Chop Robinson home and you try to sell him to me, that's just a marketing tool. If you bring Jared Verse, that means you're serious. That means you want to get back. Yeah. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. We all 3 of us are lockstep in Jared Verse. I think Jared Verse is potentially a 14, 15 sack guy. If you look at the versatility he brings, he can line up consistently with his hand in the dirt. First of all, 6'4", 260, probably going to get him somewhere around 265. He'll be fine. Aiden is around 270, I believe, right now. You're talking about the long arms. You're talking about the spin moves. You're talking about the hand quickness, the violent hands, the power, the ability to transfer speed to power, the swim moves, the snatch and pulls, the bull rushes. He can do everything. And also you can take him out of that, stand him up, and use him as a gap attacking pass rusher. There were times at Florida State this goes back to Braden Fisk being there in the middle of that defensive line. This man was able to just shoot gaps and get to the quarterback while Braden took on double teams. Yeah, I love Jared Verse. And out of all of these edge rushers in this class, he's the only one I feel safest about. That's a guy that's going to be a 12 to 13 sack guy, maybe more, moving forward. So, all right, man, let's get off of these edge rushers, these defensive linemen, and we can move on to the linebackers. We don't have to spend a lot of time on the linebackers. This is a position where being handcuffed into that 4-2-5, we only play 2 linebackers roughly 90% of the snaps. So unless this team plans on moving on from Alex Anzalone and allowing Jack Campbell to really spread his wings next season and putting a linebacker next to a linebacker next to Jack Campbell, who's pretty much the complete difference of him. Now you got a guy in maybe Edgerrin Cooper or a Jeremiah Trotter, a guy who's more athletic out there that can do different things. So we done had these people for a decent amount of time. We can just shoot through the linebackers real quick. Anybody you guys want to talk about?
Only thing, the favorite guy on my list, on this list, I love Chris Baswell, the impact player. Me, I told y'all Edgerrin Cooper is my guy. I want everybody to kind of, if you don't know who Edgerrin Cooper is, man, follow him starting today. You know what I'm saying? That guy is he played with what's the other McKinley, I can't think of
McKinley Jackson, the nose
McKinley
tackle.
Jackson. Yeah. Them two guys together was dynamite, man. So that's the one guy on my list. Go ahead, Avery.
Yeah, I'm straight on linebacker. I'm straight on linebacker right now because we have a stopgap in Anzalone, but then we have two linebackers that I really believe in. I think the choice when not Anzalone in the NFC Championship game, we had one of our linebackers go down. I believe it was Barnes. Barnes had a terrific showing last year. He went down, and Malcolm Rodriguez came in the game, and he was very sufficient for us. And unbeknownst to me, we still have a linebacker. We're playing a defensive end for some reason that we drafted in the first round that I think Anzalone is wasting his time. Okay. I think the better Anzalone becomes, the worse off Jack Campbell is going to be.
Exactly.
I feel like we have a very solid core of linebackers. This is the first time in a while I've been very happy with the linebacker position.
Yeah.
And the amount of faith that they had in Jalen Reeves-Maybin and Malcolm Rodriguez in that NFC Championship game was really respectable. So we've seen them develop, and we've seen Shepard really develop guys and make this linebacker room his own. Each guy has something different to offer. Anzalone, his wild play, and Jack Campbell being versatile, Malcolm Rodriguez being a stopgap. This is probably the safest part of our defense at this juncture. So
agree, totally agree. You know what I mean? Totally agree with that. But man, I would just like, man, if we could just go to 4-3 and get Cooper, I think that'll change a lot. I mean, or 4-3.
Well, either way, yeah.
I think that, man, he's that guy, playmaker, dude. I like Dallas Turner. I do. I like both Alabama guys.
Yeah.
I think that and Jeremiah Trotter, I got to look at some more tape on him, Walt. I did see a couple games. Early game Saturday morning. He's a player. I want to see some traits, some stuff that I like. And then I can't pronounce the kid from Washington. He was on my list too.
Zion Tupuola.
Fatui, yeah.
I don't know how I pronounced it. I just figure I'll just harmonize it at the end and make it sound like I knew what the hell I was talking about.
Man, hopefully the Lions don't draft him. We have to say his name all the time, man. Golly, but
well, we learned Ifiatu Melifonwu, and I love being able to say that clearly.
Yeah, you nailed that. Right away.
Just before we move on to the defensive backs, I think Robert Spadell brought up Peyton Wilson. He reminds me a lot of Drew Sanders from a year ago. Tall, rangy, athletic guy who played all over the field for NC State, can rush the passer, can run sideline to sideline. Drew Sanders, Brian Urlacher, one of those type of guys in that mold. I worry about is he a little bit too tall? Worry about his body type. But I think Peyton Wilson is a guy who he's versatile enough. If he gets with the right team, the right scheme, he can be a big time player, I believe. I had some injuries at NC State though.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Peyton Wilson, I think the problem with him is he does the middle linebacker or the off-ball linebacker so well that people are going to be keeping him in that mold. To me, I think if he wants to get paid, that 3-4 is going to benefit him so much more. And I think that his length and his like all-around gameplay is a benefit for like the Steelers right now. Because outside of Watt, they don't really have nobody. They've had a linebacker by committee with Highsmith and Bush and all these bums. But a guy like him, he's going to play the mic real good, and then he can go outside and really be a great pass rusher. So I'm really happy with I'm really happy with him. He's a solid player.
Yep. I thought about the Chiefs too, being a team that linebacker wise, he would be a complete difference in addition to what they already have as far as those big old school on ball linebackers in Chenault like they got in my man Nick Bolton from Missouri also turned out to be a great find for them. All right, man, let's talk about these corners real quick. Jarvis Brownlee made himself a lot of money a couple weeks ago at the Senior Bowl. Big time playmaker, instincts, at his best in zone, facing the quarterback, a lot like Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, who after the Senior Bowl kind of worked his way up into now being projected to be a top 20 pick, might be the first or second corner off the board. Outside of that, we can go through these. Any other names? Because Terrion Arnold is another guy. Big time recruit coming out of high school, dual threat sports player. Expect him to run a fast 40. Expect him to check all the boxes as well out of Alabama. Remember at one point in time, those Alabama corners couldn't get no love.
Right.
Yeah.
D. Milner spoiled it for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a couple guys. I like both Washington State guys, Avery and Wall, Jaden Hicks and Smith Wade, two guys that I think battle every week, man. They played against a top tier, receiver tandem. I like both those guys. Cooper DeJean, I'm warming up to him. When we talked about him at length in the pre-show, I like what I see with Cooper DeJean. I don't know where he ranks. I like just try to rank these guys, and maybe like this guy may, like I always have each position. I have like top 7 guys, and he's in the mix. But is he really? Is he that good? I don't know. I don't know if Cooper DeJean's that good or not. I don't. He seems like he's instinctive. I mean, he's always around the football. I don't know.
Makes plays on the football, good ball skills.
Yeah, he looks kind of natural to me. I make the comparison to Christian Gonzalez from a year ago. Although Gonzalez was taller, longer, a little bit better in man coverage. But a guy that looked like a natural, a guy that when Cooper goes out there this week, you know what he's going to do? He's going to catch the ball well. He's going to run fast. In his back pedal drills and everything, turning to make the catches, he's going to do everything well. The same way Christian Gonzalez did a year ago because he's a natural. Now, will people be able to get away from the biases of him being a white corner? I don't know. But yeah.
You know what? And I'm going to speak to this, and I know we're on a platform and everything, but the only people raving about him being a white corner is white folks. Nobody cares about his race from the African-American community, from the Samoan community. Nobody cares about his race. No one's sitting there saying, oh, this guy can't play because he's white. We don't do that, okay? Look at the history of the NFL, okay? They told us we couldn't have a black linebacker, okay, or a black quarterback.
Drafted in the first round at all.
Exactly. Yeah. So we seen guys have to go to Canada. Warren Moon had to go to Canada to play to be a quarterback. We seen guys like Charlie Ward who said, don't draft, if you don't want me in the first round, don't draft me at all. You know what I'm saying? Who end up playing baseball or some other nonsense. Like African-American groups and people are not thinking about Cooper DeJean in a racist way. That's usually the other group that uses racism as a power structure. That's not nobody here is Cooper DeJean. Nobody's doing that. I actually like Cooper DeJean. I like him a lot. What I want to see from him is I want to see the test. I really want to see how he runs. I want to see his take Kevin Hart in the draft. Okay. I just seen that comment. I just want to see how he runs. I want to see the twitch. I want to see the ability. Okay, because when I seen the twitch on Akuda and when I seen the run on Akuda, guess what? The film showed otherwise. Now I have a guy who has great film, solid film, but the twitch, I need the twitch to be there, and I need the speed to be there. I think he's going to be the first corner taken off the board, and I think he could play a quasi inside corner as well as a quasi safety. I only say that because I want to see more film on him on the outside. He played outside on Michigan. He played primarily outside against Iowa State. He played primarily outside against teams with no receivers. I want to see him play against and check guys who are from Alabama, are from Ohio State, are from I want to see him on more elite players, and I want him to test well. But in my meetings with other Black YouTubers about Cooper, we have not talked about his race or his demographic.
No.
We do not care. That's something they care about because they've done that.
Well, you know what it is, man.
In their life,
when the narrative is similar to like with us and Black quarterbacks and the narrative of Black quarterbacks not being intelligent. When white people have heard for years and years and years that white people aren't as athletic as Black people, and there's certain positions on the field that white players just can't play. When they run across a Cooper DeJean, they got to oversell it a little bit. Now, I agree with you 100% on this. When you see people talking about Cooper on social media, it's always about, when you do hear white people talking about Cooper DeJean, they constantly overselling his athleticism. Oh, he's the most athletic player in this draft. Like, let's be honest about it. And I don't want to sell him short. But for every Cooper DeJean, there's about 15 Black cornerbacks that rival him athletically. So you don't have to oversell it. We understand he's athletic. That's fine and dandy, but I do believe he's being oversold a little bit, which kind of, in retrospect, will kind of turn you off to a prospect when people are overselling them. But I think this is a decent cornerback spot. I think Kamal Hayden is a sleeper in this draft, a dude from Tennessee, 6'1", 197, big-time physical skills, missed some time this year due to injury, but he's a guy who, get him in the right system, he's a man corner, big-time skills. He's a guy that could turn out to be a late find for us or another team for that matter. Right. Cam Hart, Notre Dame, just want to go through these real quick. Cam Hart, a guy who's 6'3", borderline 6'4". If you're looking for a big, tall corner, he's maybe your guy. Kyrie Jackson. Right. I don't expect Jackson or Hart to run fast at all, just because it's tough getting those 6'3" corners to run fast. The Tariq Woolens don't come around that often. Right. You know.
And don't forget the Lions coached him in the Senior Bowl and passed on him in the draft for a tight end they barely used. So, you know, they seen how talented he was and they passed on him. He was catching shit with a glove on.
Yeah.
Passed. A stupid team. Now they drafting a corner again.
But yeah, your boy Quinyon Mitchell is good too.
Quinyon Mitchell. I love Quinyon's physicality. I love what he brought to the table at the Senior Bowl as well as to Toledo. The thing is that the corners that the Detroit Lions have drafted, although it be few of them, the Detroit Lions have always garnered and always went after guys with quick hips, right? Chase Lucas had quick hips. He had change of direction ability. Did he make plays on the ball? No. Well, that's why he doesn't make plays on the ball now. He just literally stands there.
Well, corners are born. We know that. The corners, the guys with the big time skills who have the confidence. Because let's get it straight. Ball skills are about confidence. That's why wide receivers tend to make better corners. When you have the natural, it's a natural ability to play the football. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. When you have the ability, like Dre Bly had that ability. To a lesser extent, a guy who had I don't understand why. Well, his career was short because he gambled too damn much. But a guy like Delta O'Neal, I don't know if you remember Delta O'Neal. Yeah. This was a dude who was. This was a dude who was a big time. Well, played for the 49ers too. Big time playmaker at Cal. And guys who are playmakers, if you put them in position to make plays, the ability and the knack to make plays is something that doesn't go away. You know,
this dude. Donovan Amos is crazy. I just want to say that. I don't know if you seen the comment come in, but he obviously
Cam Sutton is a number one corner. We don't need another Cam Sutton top 5 corner. Kendall Vildor is the future. I'm gonna assume that he's joking. Yeah. Before my brain explodes all over my laptop that I haven't cleaned in about 3 months. So yeah, you know, Josh Newton, the guy who could have came out a year ago out of TCU, came back. Did not have the season he thought he was going to have. Then you got guys like Quinyon Mitchell, who this is the risk a lot of these dudes run going back to school. You go back to school and you don't perform to the level you expect to. Then you got these. Not only are you competing against the other guys that came back, you're competing against the Quinyon Mitchells, the guys that come from out of nowhere. Yeah. Yeah, Max Melton.
They're getting touted. They're getting touted. They getting looked at because of the physicality, because of their ball skills, because of their takeaway ability, because they're mirroring, because they're playing in phase and out of phase with the same weight and the same level of play. They're mirroring well. Their back pedal's good. They got quick twitch. They're actually going against elite competition. Toledo was in some games they shouldn't have been because of Quinyon Mitchell. Those players are difference makers. You know, you're not going to get your Witherspoons all the time, but if you can get a player who can give you something like a Witherspoon, give you some physicality, give you an island on the edge, like that makes a world of difference. Kendall Vidor or whatever, Villaligo, he's going to be
Villaligo.
He's just a guy. Cam Sutton is just a guy. Y'all seen that in the NFC Championship game. Guys are, they got interceptions that hit their helmet and they walk off the field and they feel sorry for themselves. I need a player that's going to be on an island and actually go up against the top tier wide receivers of the world like Metcalf and not give a fuck. I need guys that are going to be out there and do everything in the world. Like Emmanuel Forbes is great, but Emmanuel Forbes got killed.
Yeah.
And our last Mississippi State corner who got killed was who? Exactly. But he turned into an all-pro. He's an all-pro corner now, Darius Slade. But at the same time, I just feel like some of these guys, like you said, like your boy from Penn State, that dude, you haven't mentioned him all day. And
Kalen King.
Kalen King, trash. He crashed out. He might be a 4th round pick, man. He had a bag early and he messed up. But I just need a playmaker on the outside. I need a playmaker who's physical. I need a playmaker who's got sticky hands, who can mirror, who can match up with receivers, both big and tall. And I need somebody elite. We had an opportunity to draft who I wanted to draft, and that was a guy. A couple years back, and Seattle got him. Okay,
Tariq Woolen.
And I said he was the best. I said he was the best corner in the draft, and everybody told me he wasn't. And then guess what? Boom. And then, when it comes to drafting cornerbacks, y'all will go crazy for Chase Lucas. I don't know why. Y'all will go crazy for people who just have quick hips and they can't make plays on the ball. And, I just call it the Lions fan base. They just want dudes to be Alfonso Smith.
Man said Alfonso Smith, huh?
They just want guys to be around.
Well, speaking of playmakers, we got one on this list that's right from our backyard, and that's Mike Sainristil of Michigan. Not an outside corner at all. I'm interested to find out what he runs, but he's a slot. He's definitely a slot, but he's also a zone slot, which kills me because, at this day and age in the NFL, I know a lot of people love Mikey because Mikey made a bunch of plays. That doesn't always translate to the next level if you don't have the athleticism. I brought up a Delta O'Neal because Delta O'Neal had the athleticism. Dre Bly had the athleticism. Tariq Woolen, big-time playmaker his rookie year. He for damn sure had the athleticism. You need Mondo traits to play corner on the outside, and even the slot for now matter because nowadays you got these teams that they got these power slots. The Keenan McCardle, not McCardle, but the Keenan Allen's, the 6'3" slot wide receivers. The bigger physical guys that you got to deal with too. And what you're going to do when you Cincinnati who's putting a T. Higgins in the slot. So it's not enough. I think a lot of times, and I fell for it last year with Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes ran the fast 40, and he made a shitload of plays. And I fell for it. But the thing is this. He was also too small, too light. And he wasn't – he was also built weird too. He was – for people who evaluate corners, you get exactly what I'm talking about as far as his lower body and everything. So I think Mike Sainristil is a guy who I expect Mike to run somewhere in that 4.5 range, 4.55, 4.56. He's going to catch the ball well. IQ-wise, he's going to grade out really well. A guy who could be on the board somewhere in the mid-third round, late third round, maybe fourth. A guy that you want to consider because you passed him to Clark Phillips last year. And Clark Phillips wound up taking Jeff Okudah's spot in Atlanta. Now, ain't that strange enough?
Clark Phillips was the best corner on the board for the Detroit Lions last year. But again, I don't know what they're looking at upstairs.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what they like because they obviously don't like winning. So when it comes to cornerbacks, every corner I kind of fell in love with has went and had a good situation. So I have a good track
Me
record.
too.
When it comes to your boy last year, I rated him as an opportunistic corner. And he was so opportunistic that he reminded me of Awarie, where he's going to give up a lot of yards and he's going to make a lot of plays that are going to be a detriment to him and his team, but he's going to be very opportunistic and be a turnover machine for the defense. So it really came down to, when Washington had him, they had to put him in almost like, I want to say that Seattle 6 zone where he can look at the quarterback and he can jump those routes. Because if he jumps a flat, it's to the house. If he jumps a dig, it's to the house. If he jumps, he's a turnover machine, and you have to use a corner like that in that way where he's opportunistic. He's not doing too much. He's always looking at the quarterback and he's always jumping routes. And he's similar to Asante Samuel, or not Asante Samuel Jr., real Asante Samuel, where he's jumping routes and he's just the guy.
Yeah.
And I think Emmanuel Forbes just went to a transitional team that wanted him to be everything. They wanted him to be a lockdown corner, which he's not. If they wanted a lockdown corner, they should have got Porter Jr., but they didn't. They tried to take the most opportunistic
Christian.
corner.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Christian was on his way to being defensive rookie of the year if he tore his pec.
Yeah, he was on people's ass, and they could have traded up to get him. When Christian Gonzalez went to New England, I said, shame on you. Because the day before, I said, if Christian Gonzalez falls to New England, shame on the whole league. Because they had him pegged. They knew he was a lockdown corner. Everybody was saying this nonsense, like getting a corner like that is too high. Everybody was talking this nonsense. A corner at 6.
What's even worse is when you sit up and you watch all the damn film you watch of him at Colorado and him at Oregon over the past 2 years. And you got people who watch no film at all telling you, oh, that Gonzalez guy is going to be a bust. How in the fuck do you know?
Yeah.
Why? Because people you listen to, because Mel Kiper told you this? Or you heard that he struggles reading in front of him, so you run with that. You don't look to go find out for your damn self. The guy Chris Sims had Christian Gonzalez rated as, I think, as the 3rd best corner or 4th best corner coming out last year. But he said like Christian Gonzalez fit the part. 6'1.5", long arms, 4.38 speed, can leap, can mirror guys all over the field, very patient in everything he does, will come up and tackle. He was what this defense needed. Now, did we end up with 2 rookies overall that turned out to be great finds for us? Hell yeah. But I mean, what fans have to understand is, okay, I understand it worked out for Brad Holmes, but there's more than one way to build a team. Now, if it works out, if the players are good players, ultimately you don't really give a damn because they turned out to be good players. But this team could have been right where they are this year if they would have went in defense, for that matter. I just want fans to understand that there's more than one way to build a team. Right, now, it's working for us like a motherfucker right now. It's working.
Yeah. The conventional goofy shit with the try hard motherfuckers is working. I just want to say, try hard corner. I just want to say to Donovan Amos, I had a $10,000 month. Get up, get your money up, man. I just want to say that to Donovan Amos. I had a $10,000 month. Just know that. I just want you to go to bed at night and know I made $10,000 doing this. So you need to go ahead. Go ahead, Donovan. Live your life.
All right,
live your life. Anyway, look. I just want to say one thing. Christian Gonzalez, when he was out of position, he still made a play on the ball. And that's rare. And that's why I said getting him, y'all can't let him fall to New England. And he was doing everything right. I'm just saying, man, we got a guy in Christian Gonzalez, and y'all just let it pass. We traded out of the pick. And we got 2 great players. I'm not going to lie. We got 2 great players. We made it up. But we now need a corner. We need the same positions we drafted for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, with this past draft, we took a strength, which was the offense. We made it even stronger, which is fine. But, now it's time to balance some things out on this defense.
We got an elite middle corner, too. We got an elite corner that can play safety and everything when Branch. So now we don't need a Saren still. But, again, this dude, wow. He gonna comment me back. Well, I mean, you ain't making no money.
Man, what's the problem? We just discussing football, man. That's all
That's
we
it.
doing. We just
He
discussing
over here.
football, man. Yeah, I don't think we casuals, man. I mean, we have access to film. I think I work pretty hard. You work pretty hard. We're not just combing YouTube for highlights of players. We got actual film.
Predicted the 2021 draft.
Yeah, so
we just regular guys that you watching.
Yeah,
we casual guys you watching.
Well, TJ Tampa, 6'2", 200 pounds. I think he's a classic cover 2 corner for the most part. I wouldn't put him in too much man for the most part, but another really good player off that Iowa State defense. I know you like Tampa a lot.
I like Tampa a lot. He's a perfect fit for that Seattle 6. He's a perfect fit. I wouldn't say for cover 2, but more for that cover 3. I think when I look at him, he has the Cam Sutton measurables, but he has the athleticism to get out of that. So what I mean by that is he can mirror well. He can keep up with receivers. I think that he has the athleticism to, for a lot of time we were in that, Seattle 6 and we were in that buzz cover 2, and he was just there. He wasn't even doing nothing. And I feel like even if a receiver or running back came his way, he's not even jumping the route. He's just making a tackle. I feel like TJ Tampa can take that level of play that Cam Sutton gave us to another level because he is trying to get at the ball. He is trying not just to make the tackle, but he is trying to take it to the house. So I love TJ Tampa in that regard, and then the measurables are there. I think what needs to happen is his mechanics for the position need to be good. His mechanics for the position need to be outstanding. That way he gets the most out of his skill. Because right now he has the ability to do everything he needs to do from a talent standpoint, but the mechanics of the position, the back pedal needs to get alarmingly better. Change of direction is great, but again, like I feel like he's going to be one of those people. You're going to put him on man on someone that's stronger than him, and he's going to have to be a technician. He can't rely solely on his athleticism. So that's my only concern with TJ Tampa.
Yeah. One more guy I want to talk about before we get to the elephant in the room, which is the kicker down position. Nate Wiggins of Clemson. I know the only knock on him really is the lack of size. He's 6'2", 185 pounds. He reminds me a lot of Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. I think he's you remember him, not the cousin of Antonio Cromartie, but yeah, that another guy that's 6'2", just barely pushing 190, super athletic, ball skills, speed.
Yeah.
I think Nate Wiggins is a guy that's gonna blow up the combine. And he's a corner that you can see his speed on film. It ain't no bullshitting with Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins is fast for real. Some dudes are shirt and t-shirt fast. This dude is pads fast. And I think he's a Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes type of guy, corner. He's gonna come in, he's gonna compete. He's tough, he's hard-nosed. He willingly comes in and tackles consistently. He can play man. He's better in man, I believe, than he is in zone. He has all the man skills. And like I said, he's a guy who could really upgrade this secondary because, and we talked about this before, Darius Slay was athletic as hell too. We haven't had too many athletic corners, like dudes out there. And I think Nate Wiggins has the potential to be a legit dude.
Yeah, I think you're right, and you're right on the money with that. I think he just needs the coaching. So whatever defensive back coach we bring in, because I know we fired Dre Blah, or we moved on from whatever that means. Whatever defensive back coach we bring in, it needs to be a allotted time with this particular guy. Because Nate Wiggins, people want to get upset about the off the field stuff early on, and they're focusing on the wrong shit. If there's a team that this guy can go to, it's probably the best fit is the Detroit Lions. Why is that? Because we're going to have the best locker room. We're going to have the best enclave for him and his troubles to be in. And then he's going to have talent. He's not going to come in here as a babysitter. Guys like Amon Ra are going to get paid. Sewell's going to get paid. If you work like those guys, you're going to get paid. You're going to get taken care of. So I feel like he has the best outlook for his career here in Detroit. Believe it or not, before I thought to myself like, oh, I don't think we'll pick him because of his issues. But no, this is literally the best locker room for him to be a part of and join. He's going to slide because of those early issues. I don't think he should slide for his first and second year at Clemson. But I think, or what college he went to? Yeah, Clemson.
Yeah.
I don't think he should slide for that, but people are going to bring it up, and it's just going to be better for us. He's 6'2", he's sticky coverage, he's fast. You get this guy in the second round,
competitive, he's confident.
Exactly. He's a real guy, and he's going to show you at camp that he's a better corner. Like, if this guy goes to freaking Kansas City and he plays opposite of L'Jarius Sneed or somebody like that, you're done. He plays opposite of McDuffie, you're done. You're finished. Because now you can't let a guy like this fall to a team that's already superior to everybody else.
Yeah. I don't think he falls past I had a little bit of reception dip. As far as Wiggins, I'm not sure if he falls past Philadelphia, honestly. Philly's really in need of some cornerback upgrade situations. Bradbury and Slade's not getting any younger. They had a lot of issues at the cornerback position over this past season. DB in general, safety as well. So the Eagles got a lot of issues. The Minnesota Vikings have been rumored to be interested in him. So he's a guy who definitely has the ability, the physical tools to go out there and make a difference in somebody's defense. I think he'll be great for us. He'll give us a guy within that 4-2-5 defense to help the safety play out as much as possible. Given that type of defense, a number one corner can make huge strides in what this defense can do as far as the pass game. So, all right, man. Everybody left us. We've been with you guys for a little over 2 hours. Hope everybody enjoyed everything we gave you guys tonight as far as information-wise, as far as this NFL draft, as far as the combine in general coming up over the next week. And Lions Pride.